Hello friends, again I am today before you with the model answer of yesterday's question. So if you remember, yesterday we took a question from Western philosophy. So now let us see what was the question and what can be the model answer for that. I can tell you today we will be taking another question from Indian philosophy which I will be answering tomorrow. So now the question, yesterday's question was, what is the Aristotle's concept of substance? Compare it with Plato's theory of ideas. So now this is the question for which in about 300 words. Now let us see what can be the answer. Now the structure of the answer will be like this. First, we will have to introduce both Plato's theory of forms or the theory of forms or theory of ideas, both are same thing, and Aristotle's concept of subject, and how both are different or similar or related, that we have to state in very brief. Then we have to describe Aristotle's concept of substance and then compare it with Plato's theory of ideas. We'll also explain what is the Plato's theory of ideas, and then comparison and critical evaluation of the whole this concept, and then finally we will conclude the answer. So now let us see how to start. Concept of substance. Now, ousia is a Greek word. I keep on telling, please do refer in questions the names of philosophers, their works, and if you are dealing with Indian philosophy, original Sanskrit words, if you remember, if you are dealing with Western philosophy, particularly the original Greek words or Latin words, if you remember, please do use that, because that will be extra, other than some candidates which they will be doing. So concept of substance, that is ousia, is in Aristotle's Metaphysics. Metaphysics is again a book by Aristotle, marks a radical departure from his teacher's Plato's theory of ideas. So Plato's theory of ideas or theory of forms is same thing actually. Both are same. While Plato upholds a dualist ontology, because that's what Plato, separating reality into the world of eternal forms and their sensible imitations. So Plato says that there is some eternal form outside purview of this world, and all whatever existing in this world is only copy of that. So that's what Plato's theory of forms or theory of ideas is. So same thing is stated here, separating reality in the world of eternal forms and their sensible limitations. So in a way, that is dualist ontology. Aristotle develops an eminent metaphysics. So in Aristotle's metaphysics, both form and substance are together. In Plato, they are two different things. So Aristotle develops an immanent metaphysics where form and matter coexist within individual substances. So in first paragraph, we have stated the striking difference between the two theories. I mean, this is what we have done in introduction. Now let us see in detail what is the Aristotle's concept of substance. Now in his categories and metaphysics, these are again two books of Aristotle. Aristotle defines primary substance as individual entities. For example, Socrates, this tree. So these examples he has given, which exist independently and serve as subjects for predication. So he has defined, I mean, basically he has categorized two kinds of substances, primary and secondary. So primary substance as individual entities which exist independently and serve as subjects for predication. Secondary substances, for example, man, animal, etc., are species or genera. His most significant innovation is hylomorphic composition, that is matter form. Hyl means matter, form, idios means form. So hylomorphic, that is matter and form both are together in the substance. So his most significant innovation is hylomorphic composition of substances. Every individual substance is a unity of matter and form. So matter is the substratum or potentiality, and form is the actualizing principle, the essence that makes a thing what it is. So this is what. In Plato's theory, both are different. Form is, eternal form is something different beyond the reach of any matter or any any human being or any worldly object. So that's what we should understand. Now, to explain change and persistence, Aristotle introduces the doctrine of potentiality and actuality. So this is again another doctrine which Aristotle has given to explain change and persistence in the world. So he has given the doctrine of potentiality and actuality. For example, uh, uh, example is given here: lump of branch potentially becomes a statue. The sculpted form actualizes this potential. For example, earthen pot is derived from earth. Branch statue is derived from branch. So this is what actuality and potentially, he has described just to explain change and persistence. Substance for Aristotle is thus both ontological and explanatory. Ontological means what it exists, and uh, explanatory means what makes something intelligible. So this is what substance is in Aristotle's philosophy. The ultimate substances, in his view, are composite beings, not abstract universals, but concrete individuals informed by essence. So basically, this is in a brief Aristotle's theory of substance. Now let us see what is Plato's theory of ideas so that we can compare with that. Now Plato specifically, his book, he has mentioned his theory of forms in Republic and Phaedo. These are again two books of the Plato. Posits forms are ideas, are eternal, immutable realities existing in a separate intelligible realm. The empirical world is mere appearance, characterized by flux and imperfection. Knowledge is possible only of these forms, not of particular sensible. So this is what we have explained in introduction also, that forms are something beyond the reach of this world, and only the copies are available for perception for these worldly objects. So for example is a particular tree is beautiful or just only because it participates in the form of beauty. So this is what is Plato's view, that forms are eternal, not within the reach of this world. In worldly objects are only copies of those forms. Plato's theory is thus epistemologically idealist and ontologically dualist. So this is again important. So in a way, Plato is idealist because he is telling that you cannot know the forms in reality. You will know only the copies, and ontologically dualist because there are two things. One is form is originally somewhere else and only copies are available. So now let us see how we can compare and critically evaluate the whole thing. So reality and knowledge. Plato, so actually comparison and critical evaluation we are doing in various subheadings. That also you should know. You should keep on adding using bullet points, headings, subheadings, depending on the length of the question or the length of the answer which you are writing, number of words available to you. So here we are doing like that. So reality and knowledge. Plato prioritizes the universal and intelligible, while Aristotle emphasizes the individual and empirical. So these are important words we are using for to differentiate between Plato and Aristotle as far as reality and knowledge regarding substance is concerned. So Plato prioritizes universal and intelligible, Aristotle emphasizes on individual and empirical. Now next is form. For Plato, form is transcendent. For Aristotle, it is eminent in the thing. So this is again another difference in their theory of substance. Then change and becoming. For Plato, in a way, Plato has not been able to explain the change in a very clear term. So Plato struggles with explaining change as critiqued by Heraclitus and later Plotinus. Aristotle's potentiality and actuality resolves this. So this is what difference between the two. Then in Aristotle, criticizes Plato's forms as unnecessary and duplicates. So this is a critique by Aristotle of his own master, or you can say guru, that he has criticized, that Plato's forms are unnecessary, duplicates, lacking explanatory power. for change or individuation. Yet some modern scholars like W.D. Ross argue that Aristotle retains a modified Platonism through his emphasis on essence. So Ross has, concluded that even though Aristotle has criticized Plato, but he has still retained a part of Plato as he has emphasized in as essence. Because if you remember, Plato also says that form and matter both are there in the substance. So in a way, essence is also in the substance. Therefore, part of the Plato is also retained by Aristotle. Now let us see what conclusion we can. So Aristotle's substance theory emerges as a corrective to Plato's abstraction, offering a more integrated dynamic ontology. While Plato champions ideal universals, Aristotle grounds reality in individual substances, synthesizing form, matter, and purpose within a single coherent metaphysical system. So this completes in about 325 words, 325, 30 words, the model answer for this Western philosophy question, in which we have distinguished between Aristotle and Plato regarding their substance theory, that is ontology theory, ontological theory. Now let us see what Indian philosophy question we will be taking today, which we will be answering tomorrow. Now the question will be like this: is Indian philosophy essentially spiritual and soteriological? Now, soteriological is liberation oriented. Most of you might have understood this word till now. So, soteriological means liberation oriented, that it prescribes the path for liberation. It prescribes that the objective of this life or the cycle of birth and death is liberation. So, that is called soteriological. So, is Indian philosophy essentially spiritual and soteriological? So, now in this question, basically we will have to compare the prominent systems of Indian philosophy and find out whether they are really spiritual and soteriological and to what extent. So that anyway we will be answering tomorrow as a model answer for that. Thanks a lot for watching today's video. Tomorrow we'll again meet with the model answer for Indian philosophy question. Thank you one and all.